When you're hunting for a gaming laptop, the first thing that hits you is the temptation to grab the cheapest gaming-ready machine you can find on a flash sale site. In my experience, those budget-oriented rigs often turn into a sore thumb a few weeks after the excitement fades. Thermal throttling, flimsy keyboards, and a screen that can't keep up with fast-paced shooters. That's why I paused before buying the HP OMEN 16, asking myself if the extra cash is really buying me a smarter experience or just a bigger brand badge. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The hesitation was real. I needed a notebook that could actually handle demanding titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Starfield while still fitting into my modest home office setup, and I was wary of overpaying for specs that wouldn't translate into day-to-day usability. First, let's talk about who this laptop is built for. If you're a serious PC gamer who also streams, does occasional video editing, or runs AI-assisted workloads, the OMEN 16 lands squarely in your sweet spot. The Intel Ultra 9285H, with boost clocks that can tip over 5 GHz, pairs with an Nvidia RTX 5070 that brings 8 GB of GDDR7 memory. Together they make a clear statement: this machine isn't just about hitting frame rates, it can juggle rendering tasks without dropping a beat. On the flip side, if you're a casual gamer who mostly sticks to indie titles or older esports games, you'll likely find the price tag and power envelope excessive. You could comfortably run those titles on a mid-range laptop costing half as much, and you'd save a few $100s for accessories or a better external monitor. Now, the things that set the OMEN 16 apart in real-world use. The 16-inch WQXGA display, 25601600, is a step up from the typical 1080p panels you see on most gaming laptops. The extra vertical resolution gives you noticeably sharper textures in open-world games, and the 240Hz refresh rate combined with a 3 milliseconds response time makes fast twitch movements feel fluid. I tried it on Valorant and could actually see the difference when tracking a moving target. The higher refresh rate reduced motion blur and made the aiming smoother. That matters if you're trying to climb ranks or if you just hate the stutter you sometimes get on 60Hz panels. Thermal performance is another practical factor. The OMEN 16 uses HP's instant gratification space layout, essentially carving out more breathing room for the CPU and GPU. In a typical 30-minute session of Elden Ring at high settings, the laptop hovered around 85°C under load, which is hot but manageable. The fans kicked up audible whirring, but they never crossed into a screaming grind that would drown out game audio or your commentary. I also measured power draw on a multi-socket outlet. The laptop stayed under the 230W limit that most home circuits can handle without tripping breakers, a subtle but welcome reassurance if you're plugging in for long streams. One of the hidden trade-offs that appears on paper but becomes clear after a few weeks is the weight and battery life. At roughly 6.5 pounds, the OMEN 16 feels sturdy and stable on a desk, but it's not something you'll want to carry around campus or on a coffee shop marathon. The 1TB PCIe SSD gives you fast load times. Games boot in under 10 seconds, but it also drains the 94Wh battery faster than a less powerful model. In my tests, I got about 3.5 hours of mixed use, gaming, browsing, and a bit of video editing before the charger was needed. That's fine if you treat the laptop as a workstation you keep plugged in, but it's a drawback if you expected a truly mobile gaming experience. Keyboard feel is often glossed over in specs sheets, yet it impacts everyday enjoyment. The OMEN's RG Backlit keyboard has a decent key travel and a subtle tactile bump that feels comfortable during marathon sessions. The lighting zones can be customized per game, which is a nice aesthetic touch, but the keyboard does lack dedicated macro keys that some competitive players enjoy. If you rely on macro shortcuts for fighting games or productivity shortcuts, you might need an external keypad. Connectivity is solid without being overkill. Bluetooth 5.4 and Wi-Fi 6 ensure stable wireless links, and the presence of an HDMI 2.1 port means you can drive a 4K 120Hz TV without a separate adapter. I connected the laptop to a 1440p monitor via HDMI and noticed zero input lag, which is crucial for competitive shooters. The single headphone/mic combo jack works fine for headsets, but there's no USB Type audio jack, which could be a minor inconvenience if you prefer that standard. Now, the practical weaknesses. The most glaring is the price. Even after a typical seasonal discount, you're looking at a figure that puts this laptop in the premium tier, and the value proposition depends heavily on how much you'll actually leverage the RTX 5070. For pure gaming at 1080p, the RTX 3050 or even a 3060-based laptop could handle most titles with ease, saving you $300–400. The OMEN's 25601600 panel and 240Hz refresh are great, but they also demand a lot of GPU horsepower. If you downgrade settings to keep the frame rate stable, you're not